Hi, and welcome to another episode of Talking with Felicia. Today, my guest is Mr. Kurt Kruger, who is the director of Success Systems International. And we are talking about stress. Everybody is affected with stress, and there's so many negative ways that people deal with their stress, but today we're going to talk about positive ways of dealing with your stress. Today, people losing homes and jobs, and you feel lost. But the one thing you can control is what you do with your body, what you do with your temple. And today we're going to talk about our temple. We're going to talk about how we can relax and reduce stress.
Now, we're going to do it with our temple, both the body, the mind, and then we open up to the spirit. So we have many different techniques to be able to use so that we get the full benefit. If we don't work on all three levels, we don't get everything.
So let me ask you, what made you decide to get into stress? I mean, what does Success Systems International, how does that allow you to deal with stress?
Well, I started out as a teacher in LA Unified School District. I taught at a school with the two biggest black gangs and the two biggest Latino gangs in the country. So breaking up a fight a day, a weapon a week kind of thing. And so I had some stress there, but I also got on a hijacked airplane coming back from India. So I had some stress there. But I had learned in India and other places from some of the top psychologists in the world how to manage stress. And because I did that before I was on that hijacked airplane, I was in the most beautiful meditative state I had ever been in. One example, you're driving down the freeway and you've never ever had somebody cut you off, have you? And some people put their IQ up in the air. And that's not nice. The person who's cut off is really freaked. The person who cuts the person off, they're listening to their music, whatever they're doing. But you want to release stress. So take your fist and put your hand here, and right under your hand is your thymus. About 2 inches under your chest is your thymus. And you thump your thymus like Tarzan, not too hard. But you want to activate that thymus, and that helps to produce the endorphins that are going to help you release that stress. If we get fired, we get let go. What do you got to do? If you focus on all those years you worked for that company and all the sweat and everything else, you're focusing on the negative. That's only going to keep you in negativity. If you want to be positive, you can't go out to an interview being freaked out. You can't be out in an interview being angry. But we have to be able to be in and be what we need to be in the moment. And that's very powerful.
You know what's powerful? A smile is powerful. Because it takes so much energy to be like, you use more muscles and stress. Exactly, you're using more muscles, you know?
So if you smile, that just lets you loose, relax. Exactly. And it also produces neuroendorphins. Neuroendorphins are what are called brain opiates.
And that's what they do.
So that de-stresses you. Now, talking about physical things, you can do yoga, you can do Pilates. I recommend not only yoga and Pilates, but also something called the 5 Tibetans. And you can look that up and Google it. And if you send a request via email to you, I'll send out a PDF file that'll get them to be able to do the 5 rites of Tibetan yoga.
So what is that?
Very simple movements, very simple. And you can do it slow, at your own rate. It only takes you maybe 10 minutes out of your day to do that. Exercise is great to be able to reduce stress. So if you get one of those stationary bikes or you go out bike riding, I like bike riding more because I get to change the scenery and everything.
Bike riding. That's what he does.
I mean, I take Boy Scouts on 50-mile, bike rides and so on. If you get exercise, it reduces stress. That's why people, if you go out into nature and you take your shoes off and you sit at the beach and you feel that beautiful presence of the ocean and nature and Mother Nature, that's God's presence. And so if we get to tune in to God, we got nothing better to do. Even for runners now, they're finding that if you have those sort of foot shoes, so to speak, that shape your toes and everything, it actually, the great runner from Ethiopia ran barefooted in the Rome Olympics, and everybody was freaked out because they thought he'd get blisters and all that. He didn't, because he was used to running in the hills of Ethiopia, and he ran naturally. And now the physiologists are finding that it actually makes you run faster, it has less problems with your legs, and so on. If you go to the beach and you run, you got no problems. You don't mess your knees up. You've got that cushion and so on. Get that exercise. Now, if you want to really get into exercise inside, you want to meditate. There's a number of ways to meditate, and each person has a different mindset. Here's a key.
What's the key?
The space between your breath, where the breath merges inside and where it merges outside. And pay attention to that space. As you do this, paying attention to your breath, it calms the mind down to your breath.
So the only sound you're hearing is your breathing.
Just your breath, and you pay attention to the space between the breath. Each space has a different size, so to speak. One of them is usually a little bit bigger or more longer than the other one. And as you do this more and more, they get bigger and bigger, and pretty soon that space is where the thoughts come from. That space is where in Scripture it says, "Be still and know that I am God." That's where God can communicate to you, because you're not thinking, you're open to His presence.
That's
and
exactly what I'm
the
trying
communication. Whenever you catch your mind thinking negative thoughts, take your hands like this. Go ahead. And I want you all to do this too. Take your hands like this and say, switch.
Switch.
And then you say, and I am positive and powerful.
I am positive and powerful.
Okay, see how simple that is? Now, what we did is we cut that center portion of our body, which basically, if you know about meridians and all kinds of other things, it's going to cancel that negative force. We've done something physically and mentally to take control of our mind, because we've said cancel or switch. Switch is better because it's more positive. So when you say switch, and then you turn it to a positive thing. I'm positive and powerful.
I'm positive
I'm doing
and powerful.
better and better.
And I'm doing better and better.
Simple things like that. Simple affirmations. Whatever one you choose.
I like affirmations.
Whatever one you choose, choose it and then switch.